The last thing a bully wants you to do is stand up to him and call his bluff. And generally, the second you do that, the second you find the courage in yourself to stand up for yourself, that guy backs down. 9 times out of 10, he does not want to be exposed because they are masking and hiding their own insecurities when they act this way. And we had bullying back in our day, but now with the social media platforms and everything, there is no respite. There is no
Yeah.
retreat. And it's easy for them via these smartphones to pile on and to say and all these crazy things, and the rhetoric just gets really out of control. And then you wonder why some of these kids show up at school with weapons and so on and so forth. I was being bullied in 7th grade. You know, I won't mention names, but there were a couple of ninth graders, a 3-year school program, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. Ninth graders were the big kids on the block. This was my first year wrestling. Well, now I'm about halfway through the wrestling season. Had know a little bit now, and these same guys that have been stuffing us in garbage cans and knocking our books out of our hands and just picking on us on a regular basis. This kid came at me at lunch, one of those same kids, and I double legged him and put him on the asphalt and pounded the crap out of him. Was just tired of it. No one bothered me again after that. Um, but sometimes that's what it takes. You've got to be willing to stand up and maybe take a beating, but in that you'll probably earn some respect from somebody, and they don't want to be called out. They don't want you to call their bluff. There's usually in every school there's a procedure, right? And you got to kind of go through the procedure. And I went through this with my son, my youngest. It's 4th grade through 7th grade, he was getting bullied by this bigger kid, him and his friends. I've already talked to the vice principal and the guidance counselor, and we've made them aware of this kid and what he's doing to you and your friends. They haven't done anything about it. I've warned them, like, look, you don't want him taking this into his own hands and handling this, because that's about what's left to happen here. Now, Caden was very smart, and I wish I was this intelligent. So he waited to the last day of school. The kid smacked one of his friends with a hula hoop at field day, no particular reason. And that was the thing that snapped him. And it was the last day of school. So he wasn't going to get any ramifications. He wasn't going to get kicked out. He wasn't going to get suspended or whatever. And he wore this kid out. I think there's a very fine line there. And being willing to step up and stand up for yourself, or stand up for somebody else who's not capable of doing it, at least at that stage in their development. Um, Knowing when the situation is at hand and not going too far. There is, again, I think there's where that fine line, that gray area. Okay, so you put this guy on the deck and you put your knee on his chest, and now he's subdued. Do you need to crack him in the face 3 times? Is that sending the right message? Or did you get him to submit? Get him to say, hey, enough is enough. First message that needs to go out is to that administration in that school that needs to be a lot more aware of what's going on in their student body, and who these kids are that obviously have some troubles and some issues that they're dragging around, that's putting them in a mindset where they think they need to lash out against somebody else that's weaker, smaller, and not capable of taking care of themselves. There's the flaw, and there's the issue right there. And you need to identify and figure out who these kids are, because they need some empathy and some extra help, not
Yeah.
because they need to be knocked around more, because that's probably what put them in that mindset in the first place. Is they've been some abuse or some trauma that's put them in this place in the first place. So that's part of this vicious cycle. Those kids that act this way are acting this way for a reason. So recognizing who they are, keeping an eye on that, and then when these types of situations happen, make sure you're punishing the right kid and getting to the bottom of the situation appropriately. So that goes out to the administration. As a kid, you need to be willing to stand and have the confidence to stand up for yourself. And if you don't have that right now, then we need to get you in an environment where we can help you develop that. I have a 19-11 fight record. Everybody talks about 6 world championships. I lost all 6 times. It's not about winning. It's the championship spirit is how you deal with the adversity of those losses. That's championship spirit. It's not about winning all the time. It's about stepping up and embracing that adversity and figuring out how to navigate through that and come back and be successful. Step out there again and be successful. That's championship spirit. We spend the first 7 years of our lives being told, no, bad boy, bad boy, bad boy. No, don't do that. Don't do it. You get all this negativity. And I think many of us are trying to overcome. That's the most formative time in our life. Your language acquisition skills, all these, you're very impressionable. You're developing the coping skills to deal with the adversity of being on this planet, being in this society, which is no small thing. So recognizing that you control that voice in your head, it does not control you. You can step behind it anytime you want, let it chatter on, let it say anything it wants to say. You don't have to engage. What do we tend to do is engage in those things. Oh, my calves are small. What if I get tired? All the what ifs again, we've talked about this, come into play. Recognizing that you have the power. What you say out of your mouth and what you think in your brain is so powerful. And most of us walking around are oblivious to how much power that has. What you're thinking and saying is exactly what's going to come back to you. And recognizing these things and how powerful these things are and learning that you control, you have the buttons to control all of that. Give yourself those affirmations. Write them on a 3x5 card. Put them on your mirror where you brush your teeth every morning and every night. Put them in on the dash of your car, or in your locker, in your gym bag. And when that voice starts chattering and being negative and undermining your confidence, start reciting those affirmations that keep you on track and keep you in that positive mindset. Eventually, you don't need the cards anymore. But recognizing that you control this, it does not control you. Getting your brain to shut off, stop talking. These are all about very valuable skills that we don't. I mean, as an athlete, I was fortunate in that I started doing some of this stuff by accident in junior high school, and it wasn't really until I was in my 20s and on the national team that I really got exposed to some of this stuff in the psychological world and how much of it I actually affect and control. And I wished I'd had somebody impart that knowledge on me when I was in junior high and doing it by accident. I may have achieved a lot more by the time I'd gotten to my senior year in high school. Instead of a one-time state champ, maybe I'd have been a state champ more and been more successful. Dig into the mental side of it. Find those affirmations. Share those with that person that's closest to you. That might be your grandma. That might be your mother. For me, it was my mom. And then those coaches or that best friend. Because when things get crazy and you start to go off track, squirrel, and you're going the wrong way now, that person is the one that's going to call you back. Say, hey, I thought your goal was to be here. Is that really going to help you get there? Or do you need to adjust and get back on track here?